And uh, Henry was the one talking, and he says, "Well, I don't know which one of you girls I want to see." And he says, I got to find out something." He says, "Before I even date, you'll go to see you. I got to find out how old you girls are." And Alice spoke. She was already, she was 19, and he says, "Well, that's old enough." And then he come around and asked me how old I was. And I says, "Well, I'm the oldest. I'm 20. I'll be 22 in a little bit." "Oh, you'll be there?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, you're old enough too." He says, I think I'll take you." So, yeah. So we went to it was a date at the fairgrounds. We went to the fair all together, and we went on these couple of rides. I went on a couple of rides with Henry, and Alice was a parachuter. So we all met it was only about an hour and a half, something like we stayed. So because we said, "Well, we got to go home. It's getting late." So we're leaving. I enjoyed Henry. We've had a good time on the rides and looking all around and just talking nice and everything. He was real nice. When Alice came back, she nudged me on the arm and said, "I don't like him, Daisy." I said, "What? He's old. He's too old for me." She asked me that. And guess what? She married. She married a man 12 years older than herself.
Really?
I laughed at her. I don't think he took her for no rides or nothing. I got my good time. I went on 2 or 3 of those nice rides. Until the day that he would come to see me, Henry. He always brought his friend with him.
Mm-hmm.
Parachuter always came. Yeah. So we were never, what's called alone. No, Henry and I. No. When he asked me, I was really shocked when he asked me to marry him. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't even thinking about no such a thing as that anyhow. Because I was young yet, I'm having a good time. I'm wanting to get married. And everybody in the room there stood up when what I was going to say. But Sister Watkins, she said, "Daisy Ruth, I want to see you in the kitchen." So I said, "Oh, okay." And I went in there and she said, "You ain't no way you're going to marry that man. You don't know him. He's liable to have a wife." And I said to myself, "Oh my, he might have a wife." I said to myself, "No, I'm not going to marry him." But when I went back and I said to him, and I looked him right in the face and I said, "Henry, I can't marry you, Henry. You might already be married. I don't know you." And he looked me in the face. He said, I'm not married." He says, "I want to marry you." And Parachuter, his friend, says, "I've known him for 3 years." He says, "I know he's not married." And I looked at Henry again. I says, "Henry, are you sure that you want to marry me?" He says, "Yeah, I want to get married. I want to marry you." And then he says, "I've only got about 2 more weeks here, and I'll be going to up there in New Jersey to the place where they send us away. I'll be gone." And he says, "We got to get married in a hurry." I said, "How in a hurry? I'm not going to get married in a hurry." And he says, "Well, we'll have to go to get the papers and then the army, they'll sign if they'll let me marry you. And I said, oh, okay. I think they check out really to see if they check them out. And I says, okay, when do you want to go to get the papers? I said, well, let's go Monday. It was funny. Go Monday to get the papers. I said, okay. Well, he knew a lot of my friends and he never had met my mom and dad. Well, we're going to take him over there. Oh, my father would have a fit right in front of him, I know what my father would have done because he was, in the army, knew what they done and all that kind of stuff. So I didn't know him, but he knew me pretty good. So went over there and got our license, and we had to wait 5 days. Was it 5? Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It's about 5 days it was to go back to get something else done, blood test or something else we had to do. So we done that. We done all the stuff we're supposed to do. And then came the day to get married, and I had my few little clothes I was going to take with me because I didn't know what was going to be happening. I didn't know. I had my little suitcase there over at Simpson Watkins' house, ready to, go. So first of all, we went over and we got married. And then we went back to Fort Jackson, and he introduced me to all of his friends there. His wife, they were all shocked up that he's getting married. Getting married. And I knew all along I was going to see him just a very short while. So we went over and caught the train, got on the train, and parachuter, he goes too, because he was going to get off in Washington to catch another train to go. He lived out west someplace. He had to catch a different train to go that way. So he went with us that far to Washington. And I saw a parachuter getting off the bus, and the train. And all of a sudden, I don't know why, but I picked up my little suitcase, went right after him. And Henry said, where you going? Where you going? And I said, I'm going back home. You going back home, but you ain't got no money? He knew I didn't have any money. I had the tickets. He said, you don't even have money to buy a ticket to go back home. Where you going? Well, he's having a fit. And he came running after me. He put some money in my hand. Here's enough money to buy a ticket if you're going back home. So I got off the train. And when I got off the train, I didn't buy my ticket yet. I'm just standing there with that money in my hand. And I'm looking at the train, and I'm looking at my husband going off in the train. And I said, oh, I'm not gonna go home. I'm gonna catch the next train to Wilmington, and I'm gonna find his home. And I'm gonna find out if he's married or whatever. I was gonna find out everything about him before I ever went to see him ever again. And I did. I went over, in the train station there, I saw the telephones and the telephone book and all of that. So I didn't know what number to call, but I says, I'll call, see if I can find a Fisco in here. So I'm looking down, and I'm looking, and I finally found, not his name, but his mom's name. I knew his mother's name was Anna, and I found her name there in the book, and so I called. And the strange thing is, when she answered the phone, she spoke in Italian. And I managed to say, could I please speak to Henry? And she realized I was speaking English, I guess. Anyway, she says, well, he's not here right now. He's across the street at the beer garden over the across, the beer garden was right across the street from her house. And I says, over there, I pointed. He said, yeah, he's over there with some friends. He just came in about an hour ago, and for the, he was going to be there for the weekend. That's all she knew. So, in the meantime, I waited maybe 15 or 20 minutes, maybe a half an hour. I was waiting there talking. And while we were there talking, Pete's wife, Rose, came in. His wife, Rose, his brother's, Pete's wife, Rose, came in. And Henry's mama was saying, look who's here, Rose. This is Henry's wife. And she had to, Henry would get married. I didn't think Henry would ever get married. And the mom says, well, Henry's over there at the beer garden, Rose. Could you take her over there and try to see find Henry? And so then Rose took me over there to the beer garden. I never been in a beer garden before my life. And first thing I saw Henry at this little table with a whole group of people, and there was two girls sitting there with him. Oh, well, not with him, but in the table, on the table. So Rose took me over there to the table. And Henry still hadn't turned around that way to look at me. His back was turned that way. He hadn't seen me yet. So Rose took me over to the table. And she says, look, Henry, here's your wife. Everybody in the beer garden heard him. She just talked real loud. And he jumped up out of his seat. Says, my wife is going to South Carolina. She ain't here. So here she is. So I didn't sit down there with that group, no. And Henry says, well, Rose, take her over to Mom's. That's where he was staying, Take her back over there. So because I'll be over there in just a little bit. I don't know what he was going to do. Explain everything, I reckon. And his mother talked to me real nice. She liked me a lot. She said, where are you from? I told her South Carolina. She knew where South Carolina was. And I said, it's in the South. And she says, oh, she says, I'm from the South too. She said, South Italy. She says, I know what it's like to live in the South because it's nice and warm. When she got married, she said she married someone from there, but when she came to this country, and she was talking real nice. She made me go in the kitchen and sit down. She had it wasn't a bed in her kitchen. It was one of those old-timey couches that has like a pillow on it. You've seen them, haven't you? Huh? The old-timey couch. I don't know what they call it. We didn't call it a couch. Anyhow, I called it a couch. It was the kind you could lay down like this and put your head back like that on. And she said, sit down here. And so she says, sit down, take a rest. I know you're tired, she told me. Says, Henry will be here a few minutes, and he was. And boy, when she saw Henry, she started talking all Italian. I didn't know what they were talking about. And, why'd you get married so fast like that? Why didn't you bring her up here? We get married and have a big wedding. And I says, Mama, I'm going overseas, he says. the first time I really realized that he was going to leave. He says, I'm fixing to go overseas. He says, I got to stay here just one day. I'm going. Says, and so I brought my wife with me. He didn't tell her what I had done. He never would tell anybody that. He was ashamed. Yeah, I done that. Oh, my land. And we never talked about it either, what I did, but he understood that I was very, very nervous. Oh, I was so nervous. I made up my mind I'm going to go see what kind of people they are before I ever stayed. But I mean, I was going to go back for real, go back home. If I didn't like that situation. So they were so nice to me and said, oh, we got to take her over down to Molly's house. They introduced her to his sisters. They had two sisters down there. And so here were trips, and there was a little light snow on the ground, because it was in November, just a light snow. And we walked all down the sidewalk down across over there to Molly's house. And their eyes was open wide and all, because she had no idea. Because Henry, he wasn't dating no girl or nothing to get married or nothing. He get married. And they liked me. Here they go in the refrigerator, brings out all kinds of lunch meats, Italian lunch meats. Come on down, come on, sit down and eat. And make them, sandwich, had some cakes, some cookies, all kinds of stuff on the table. And she says, we don't have any coffee right now, we'll make you some coffee. Got busy over there making coffee and stuff. So they accepted me right off the bat like that, and they liked me the whole time I lived up there. They always treated me like that, real nice. So I said to myself, well, looks like I'm a winner. Looks like I'm all right, So I stayed there 2 weeks after he left. I stayed with his mother. She was lonely. All of her sons were in the war, one fighting over there in the Pacific. I mean, all the rest are in the Atlantic on that side. One in the Pacific, one in the Navy. That one, Frank. And he was married and had a little girl named was Phyllis. And she was already like 5 years old. Cutest little thing. So they introduced me to Phyllis, and already she called me, oh, Aunt Ruth, she would call me. I'm not her aunt, and I mean, I ain't nobody's aunt. Oh, all of them would call me Aunt Ruth, Aunt Ruth. They all accepted me. So I stayed. I stayed with his mom there for 2 weeks, and then my gosh, I gotta go home, tell everybody what I've done. Then I'm scared to go back home. Better scared of us going back as I was when I left. But I went back home, and first one I went to was my grandma. Met my grandma. She was out in the garden. She had her little hoe, doing some little things out there. And I told her, I says to Grandma, I says, Grandma, I got married. And Grandma says, yes, Alice told me all about it. I know you got married. You ran off. You got married. I said, yes, I did. And then I says, Grandma, I'm not too sure that I want to stay up there, though. It's way up north. And she said, yes, I know where you went. And I says, do you think it'll be all right if I would just get a divorce if I don't like it? And she says, oh, no, You can't get no divorce. Said that would be Jehovah wouldn't like that. You did that. Says the Bible says when you get married, you have to stay with the one you take vows. You get married. You did that, didn't you? I said, yeah, I went through all of that. I got married. So you have to go with your husband, and you got to stay with him wherever he goes. You got to, if he wants to live somewhere else, you have to go with him, because that's what I did with when I got married. Because she got married, she was only 15. But she said she followed her husband wherever he went. She went. Says that's what you have to do. And I says, you mean? And then I explained. I said, so Grandmother, they're not Jehovah's Witnesses. And how I don't know how I'm going to manage to get back to my Kingdom Hall. Says, well, that's something you got to work out for yourself. Between you and Jehovah, you did what you did. She didn't talk really mean to me. I was just talking nice to me, my grandma, because she's the one taught me the truth. But now you're a married woman, and you got to behave like a married woman. She said. She knew I was kind of wild, and I like to go places and all kind of stuff. Hey, you got to stay with your husband. You got to be a good wife, and you got to stay with him. And if wherever he wants to live, wherever it is, you have to go. And what she told me. Then she went and told all the rest of my family. They already knew, and said they knew. The Alice had told a big mouth Alice. The Alice was working with the newspaper, and she put it all in the paper. Put my picture in the paper that I was married. That's the story of my marriage. Yes. And I didn't know what I was doing. Believe me. I think I was just doing something funny. Amen. And he was a good husband. You know, whenever all that mess came up after, we were only here about 2 years when all that mess was getting rid of the house and letting Billy and Glenn have all the goodies. I didn't like that idea. And I told them so. I told them this is a beautiful homestead. And you got no business. That's what I told my brothers, not to anybody else. You got no business doing what you're doing. Oh, it's a lot of money in here. We got a lot of money. Yeah, a lot of money. Place be gone.